There's a moment before every real change in your life. It is small. It is quiet. Nobody sees it happen. It is the moment when you still have a way back. You can still turn around. You can still go home. You can still say, maybe later, and nobody will blame you for it. That moment feels safe. It feels smart, even. But that one moment, the moment you keep your way back open, is the reason most people never change anything at all. Picture yourself 30 years from now. You are older. Your hands move slower. Your eyes are tired. You are sitting somewhere quiet, thinking back over your whole life, and you ask yourself one question. Did I ever really try? Did I ever go all in on anything? Or did I always keep one foot out the door, just in case? That question is the one that keeps people awake at night when they get old. Not because they failed. Failure they can live with. What they cannot live with is never really trying at all. There is an old story about a group of soldiers who landed on a strange shore to fight a battle they had almost no chance of winning. The enemy was bigger. The enemy was stronger. The odds were terrible. So the leader of these soldiers did something that sounds crazy when you first hear it. He ordered his own ships burned, right there on the beach, in front of every single man. Every ship they had sailed in on, gone, turned to smoke and ash on the sand. Now think about what that means. If the ships are burned, there is no ship left to run back to. There is no sailing home in defeat. There is no changing your mind halfway through the fight. You win, or you do not go home at all. Something happens inside a person's mind the moment the way back disappears. They stop asking, what if I fail? And they start asking, how do I win? That is the whole story. That is the whole lesson. That is why people still tell it, hundreds of years later. Burn the boats, no way back. Say it slowly. Let it sit in your chest for a second. This is not a cute saying for a poster on a wall. This is a decision, a real one. The kind of decision that changes what your life looks like 10 years from now. Most people never make this decision. Most people build an exit before they even build the thing they say they want. They start a business, but they keep the job that pays the bills, just in case. They start a diet, but they keep the junk food in the cupboard, just in case. They chase a dream, but they keep telling themselves it is only a hobby, just in case. Just in case what? Just in case they need a way to quit without admitting they quit. You have to build the life first. Then, and only then, do you earn the right to think about an exit. Not the other way around. Most people do it backward. They protect their comfort before they even try. And comfort protected too well becomes a cage you built with your own hands. Ask yourself something honest right now. What is your ship? What is the thing sitting on the beach behind you, quietly waiting, whispering that you can always go back if this gets too hard? For some of you, it is a job you hate, but keep anyway. For some of you, it is money saved up that lets you stay lazy a little longer. For some of you, it is a person, an old relationship, an old version of your life that you keep one foot inside of because leaving it fully feels too scary. Whatever it is, you already know. You knew before you finished reading this sentence. Here is a harder truth. As long as that ship is sitting there on the beach, you will use it. Not because you are weak, because you are human. Humans take the easy road when the easy road is right there in front of them. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to work harder just because. People work harder when working harder is the only option left. You do not need more motivation. You need fewer exits. Think about a person climbing a mountain with a rope tied around their waist, connected to a safety anchor far below. That rope is smart. That rope keeps them alive if they slip. But now imagine a different climber, one who cuts the rope halfway up. No safety line, no going back down slowly and calmly. From that point on, the only direction that makes sense is up. Every single move they make from that second on is sharper, more careful, more focused, because there is no soft landing if they mess up. That climber does not climb better because they suddenly grew talent out of nowhere. They climb better because fear of falling and fear of failing became the exact same fear, and both of them now point in the same direction, forward. No way back does not mean no fear. Do not let anyone tell you that burning your boats makes the fear disappear. It does not. You will still feel it. Your hands will still shake a little the first few weeks. Your mind will still whisper that you made a mistake, that you should have kept the old job, that you should have kept the old plan, that maybe you rushed this. That whisper is normal. Everyone who has ever burned a boat has heard that whisper. The difference between the people who make it and the people who do not is simple. The ones who make it keep walking anyway. There is a kind of farmer who uses an old, brutal method to force new growth. He burns the old field completely. Every weed, every dead plant, every bit of tired old soil covering is set on fire and turned to ash. It looks like destruction. It looks like he just ruined his own land. But underneath that ash, the soil becomes rich again, and the next crop that grows there grows stronger than anything that grew before. He did not add something new to force the growth. He removed the option to keep farming the old, tired way. That is what burning your boats does to your life. It does not add motivation from the outside. It removes the option to stay the same. Say it again. No way back. Not as a slogan, as a decision, as a line drawn in the sand behind you that you refuse to cross again. No matter how tired you get, no matter how hard the wind blows, no matter how much your old life calls out to you from behind. Let's talk about the excuses first, because excuses are the boats most people never even notice they are still holding on to. I will start when things calm down. I will start when I have more money saved. I will start when I feel ready. Listen carefully. Things do not calm down. There is no calm season waiting for you somewhere in the future. There is only now, and there is only later, and later always turns into another later, over and over, until one day later has eaten your whole life. You do not feel ready, because readiness is not a feeling that arrives before action. Readiness is a feeling that arrives after you have already started. You cannot think your way into being ready. You can only act your way into it. Burn the excuse, not tomorrow. Right now, while you are reading this, whatever sentence you say to yourself to explain why today is not the day, burn it. Watch it turn to smoke. It was never true anyway. It was just a comfortable little boat, sitting quietly on the beach of your mind, waiting for you to climb back into it the second things got hard. Here is a question worth sitting with. What would you do differently this week if you knew, 100%, with total certainty, that there was no way back to your old life? Not probably no way back. Not mostly no way back. Completely, totally, no way back. Would you wake up earlier? Would you stop wasting hours scrolling on your phone? Would you stop hanging around people who laugh at your goals? Would you finally have that hard conversation you have been avoiding for months? If your honest answer is yes, then you already know the old life was never actually helping you. It was just familiar, and familiar feels safe, even when it is quietly killing your future, one comfortable day at a time. There is a difference between people who want something and people who need something. Wanting lets you wait. Wanting lets you say someday. Needing does not wait. Needing gets up at 5 in the morning without an alarm. Needing finds a way when there is no way. Most people spend their whole lives wanting things instead of needing them, and that is exactly why they never get them. You do not need more want. You need to remove the comfortable option that lets wanting stay lazy. Think about someone who decides to learn how to swim by standing at the edge of the pool for years, dipping a toe in, thinking about it, reading about it, watching other people do it. That is one way to spend a life. Now think about someone who gets pushed into deep water with no ladder nearby. Something changes instantly. The body figures out how to move. The mind stops overthinking every little detail and starts solving the actual problem in front of it, which is simply staying above water. Deep water does not care about your theory. Deep water only cares whether you can swim. Most people spend their whole lives at the shallow edge of their own potential, because the deep end still has a ladder they can climb out of whenever it gets uncomfortable. Burn the ladder. No way back. Let those 3 words become something you repeat to yourself the next time your comfortable old habits come calling. When the phone buzzes, and it is that person who always talks you out of your goals. No way back. When the fridge is calling you toward the food you swore you would stop eating. No way back. When the bed feels warmer than the gym floor at 5 in the morning. No way back. It is not a magic phrase that removes temptation. It is a reminder of the decision you already made on the day you burned the boats, back when you were serious. Here is something people rarely say out loud. Burning your boats is selfish in the best possible way, and also generous in a way most people never expect. It is selfish because you are finally choosing your own growth over everyone else's comfort with the old version of you. It is generous because the strongest version of you is the only version who can actually show up fully for the people you love. A tired, comfortable, half-committed version of you cannot lead a family, cannot build something that outlives you, cannot be the example your children or your younger siblings or your friends secretly need to see as possible. You are not just burning boats for yourself. You are burning them so someone watching you, someone who does not even know they are watching yet, can see that it is actually possible to go all in on a life and win. Let's talk about pain for a second, because pain scares people away from burning their boats more than anything else does. There are 2 kinds of pain in this life. There is the pain of staying stuck, the slow, dull, quiet pain of watching years pass while nothing changes, the pain of small regrets stacking up one on top of another until they become one enormous regret you cannot look at directly anymore. And there is the pain of going all in, the sharp, loud, uncomfortable pain of hard work, of failing in public, of being laughed at before you are respected. Both paths hurt. Nobody gets to skip pain in this life. But one of these pains has a purpose. One of these pains is building something. The other pain is just decay, spread out slowly enough that you barely notice it happening until it is already done. Choose your pain. That is really the whole decision. Not whether to suffer, because you will suffer either way. The only real choice you get is whether your suffering builds something or wastes something. Imagine a person crossing a long, shaky wooden bridge over a deep canyon. Halfway across, the bridge behind them starts to collapse, plank by plank, falling into the canyon below. There is no going back now, not even if they wanted to. The only direction left is forward, toward the other side. Notice something interesting about this person. Their pace picks up. Their focus sharpens. Every ounce of energy that used to be split between should I go back and should I go forward now belongs completely to moving ahead. That split focus, that quiet, constant question of, maybe I should turn around, is one of the most exhausting things a human mind can carry. The moment the bridge falls away behind you, that exhausting question disappears completely, and all that focus becomes fuel for the only direction that still exists. You are carrying that split focus right now, whether you admit it or not. Some part of your mind is still asking, should I turn around about something? Your business idea, your fitness goal, your relationship, your move to a new city, your decision to finally speak up for yourself. That question is draining you more than the actual hard work ever could. Burn the boat connected to that question. Let the bridge fall behind you. Watch how much lighter forward suddenly feels. There is a certain kind of hunger that only shows up when there is nothing left to fall back on. Not the polite hunger of someone who wants a promotion someday. The real hunger. The kind that shows up in a person who has genuinely run out of other options. Watch how differently that person moves through the world. They do not wait for the perfect moment because they cannot afford to wait. They do not ask for permission because there is no one left to ask. They do not compare their pace to anyone else's because comparison is a luxury for people who still have a soft landing waiting for them somewhere. You do not need to actually lose everything to access that hunger. You just need to stop pretending you have a soft landing you do not actually want to use. No way back. Say it out loud this time, even if you feel silly doing it. Words said out loud land differently than words only thought. Say it like you mean it, because if you do not mean it, none of the rest of this matters. This entire message is useless to anyone who reads it and nods along, and then goes right back to keeping every single exit open, just in case. Let us talk about comfort for a moment, because comfort is the quietest boat of them all, and the one people are most reluctant to admit they are still holding on to. Comfort does not look dangerous. It looks like rest. It looks like balance. It looks like being reasonable. But comfort, left unchecked, slowly convinces you that surviving is the same thing as living. It is not. Surviving is staying exactly where you are, with the lights dimmed low enough that nothing hurts too much. Living is choosing to walk towards something uncertain, because the certain thing you are currently standing in stopped being enough for you a long time ago. Even if you never said that out loud, here is a small poem, simple words, nothing fancy, just something to sit with for a moment. The boat was warm. The boat was safe. The boat kept me from harm. But the boat also kept me small. So I lit the match myself, and I did not look back at all. The fire was loud. The fire was bright. For one whole night, I stood on the sand with nothing behind me and everything in front, and for the first time in years, I was not afraid of the water. I was only afraid of standing still. Read that again if you need to. Small words, simple meaning. The point is not to sound clever. The point is that the fear of moving forward and the fear of staying still are both real, but only one of them is useful. Choose the fear that moves you. Think of a person digging a well in dry, cracked ground, looking for water that has not been seen in that place for years. For a long time, there is nothing but dust and hard dirt and sore hands. A weaker person stops digging at 4 feet down and decides there was never any water here to begin with. They fill the hole back in, call it a lesson learned, and walk away feeling smart for quitting early. But the water was never at 4 feet. It was at 6, or 8, or 12. The person who kept digging did not have secret information the quitter lacked. They simply removed the option of stopping. They told themselves before they ever picked up the shovel that they were digging, until they hit water, no matter how long that took, and no other outcome was acceptable. That decision, made once, at the very beginning, before the hard part even started, is what carried them through every single hour of digging that came after. Make that decision now, before the hard part of your own goal even begins. Decide today, while it still feels easy to decide, that you are digging until you hit water. Not until it gets difficult. Not until you feel discouraged. Not until someone doubts you. Until you hit water. Full stop. There is a strange kind of freedom that shows up only after you burn a boat. And almost nobody talks about it, because almost nobody gets far enough to feel it. It is the freedom of no longer negotiating with yourself every single day. Most people spend enormous amounts of mental energy negotiating. Should I go to the gym today, or should I rest? Should I work on my goal tonight, or should I relax? Should I keep going, or should I quit? That negotiation is exhausting, and it happens constantly, quietly, underneath everything else you do. But once the boat is burned, once the decision is truly made and there is no way back, the negotiation ends. There is nothing left to negotiate. There is only the next right action, over and over, day after day, because the other option simply does not exist anymore. No way back. Let it become the quiet engine running underneath everything you do from this point forward. Not something you shout once and forget. Something you carry with you into every ordinary moment. Into the moment you choose what to eat. Into the moment you choose whether to check your phone or do the work. Into the moment someone asks why you are pushing so hard and you no longer feel the need to explain yourself because the boats are already ash and there is truly nothing left to explain. Think about a person who decides to move to a brand new city where they know absolutely nobody, with no plan to move back if things go badly. At first, this looks terrifying from the outside. No safety net, no familiar faces, no comfortable routine to fall into if the new place does not work out right away. But watch what happens inside that person over the following months. They talk to strangers because they have to. They figure out the city because they have to. They build a new life from nothing because staying frozen is simply not an option anymore. The very thing that looked like a terrible risk from the outside becomes the exact reason they grow faster than they ever would have staying home, surrounded by the comfortable safety of people and places that already knew the old, smaller version of them. The old version of you is comfortable to be around. That is exactly the problem. The people who knew the old you, the places that remember the old you, the habits that feel like home to the old you, they are all quietly pulling you backward, not out of cruelty, but simply because that is what familiar things do. Familiar things pull you toward what they already know. If you want to become someone new, you cannot keep visiting the exact same shore that built the old version of yourself. Burn that shore behind you, at least for now. At least long enough to let the new version of you take root without being pulled back into the old shape. Here is a contrast worth remembering. A person who keeps every option open ends up committed to nothing. A person who closes every option except one ends up powerful beyond what they ever expected. This sounds backward at first. More options should mean more power, right? It does not work that way. Options split your energy into smaller and smaller pieces until none of those pieces are strong enough to actually finish anything. One option, fully committed to, gets all of your energy at once. That concentrated energy is what actually moves mountains. Scattered energy just makes you tired without making you far. No way back does not mean reckless. Do not confuse burning your boats with burning down everything around you out of anger or panic. This is not about destroying your life. This is about removing the specific, quiet exits that let you stay small when the moment finally comes to grow. Keep the people who support you. Keep the discipline that keeps you healthy. Keep the wisdom you have already earned. Burn the excuses. Burn the comfortable lies. Burn the version of you that talks about big dreams at dinner parties, but never actually does anything about them once the plate is cleared away. Ask yourself, one more time, honestly, what is still sitting on your beach right now? Say it in your own head. Name it clearly. Do not let it hide behind vague words like someday or when the time is right. Name the actual boat, the actual job, the actual relationship, the actual excuse, the actual comfortable habit that is quietly keeping you exactly where you already are. Now imagine setting fire to it. Not literally, unless it truly needs to be literal. Imagine the decision itself, clean and final. Imagine waking up tomorrow with that boat already gone, already ash, already nothing but smoke drifting out over the water. What would you do with your first hour of that new day? Would you finally send the message you have been too afraid to send? Would you finally sign up for the thing you have been circling for months? Would you finally stop explaining yourself to people who were never going to support you anyway? You do not need permission to burn your boats. You do not need the perfect plan. You do not need to feel completely ready. Readiness is a myth sold to people who are looking for one more reason to wait. The soldiers on that beach were not ready. The climber cutting the rope was not entirely sure they would make it to the top. The farmer burning the old field could not see the future harvest while the smoke was still in the air. None of them waited for certainty. They made the decision, and then they let the decision make them. Say it one final time, and mean it more than you have meant anything in a long time. Burn the boats. No way back. Not because burning things is exciting. Not because destruction feels powerful for a moment. But because the version of you that is capable of the life you actually want cannot be built, while a comfortable escape route is still sitting quietly behind you, waiting patiently for the moment you get tired. You will get tired. That is guaranteed. The work ahead of you will be hard. Some days brutally hard, and there will be moments where turning back would feel like the sweetest relief in the world. That is exactly why the boat has to be gone before that moment ever arrives. You cannot trust yourself, in the middle of exhaustion, to make the same brave decision you are capable of making right now. Clear-headed, reading these words. Make the decision now, while it is still easy to make, so that later, when it is hard, there is simply nothing left to decide. Let us talk about the people around you, because they matter more to this decision than most people want to admit. When you burn your boats, not everyone claps for you. Some people get quiet. Some people get strange. Some people who used to laugh with you and stand beside you, suddenly seem uncomfortable when you tell them you are done playing it safe. This is not because they hate you. It is because your decision holds up a mirror to their own unburned boats. And mirrors like that are uncomfortable to look at. When you stop keeping a way back, you remind everyone around you of the way back they are still quietly holding on to. Some of them will resent you for that, even if they never say it out loud. Do not let their discomfort talk you into rebuilding a boat you already burned. Their comfort was never your responsibility to protect. You will hear the doubt before you hear the support. That is simply how it works. Doubt travels faster than belief, because doubt requires no risk to speak. Anyone can say, "That will never work." It costs them nothing. It takes no courage. Belief, real belief, is rare. Because believing in someone else's burned boats means admitting that maybe you should burn a few of your own. And most people are not ready for that thought yet. So expect the doubt. Expect the raised eyebrows. Expect the family member who asks, gently but pointedly, if you have thought this through, as if thinking about it more would somehow make the fire burn less bright. Let them ask. Answer if you want to, or do not. Either way, keep walking. There is a kind of quiet strength that only shows up in people who stopped asking for approval before they took action. Watch closely and you will notice something about the people who actually build the lives they wanted. They rarely wait for everyone around them to agree first. They make the decision alone, in a quiet room, long before anyone else even knows it happened. By the time the people around them find out, the boats are already ash. There is no debate to be had anymore, because the debate would require a boat that no longer exists. This is not about ignoring wise advice from people who have actually walked the path before you. This is about refusing to let comfortable people who never intend to burn anything themselves, talk you out of the one decision that could change everything. Think about someone standing at the very edge of a high diving platform for the first time, looking down at the water far below. The longer they stand there thinking about it, calculating, imagining every possible way it could go wrong, the harder the jump becomes. Fear does not shrink the longer you study it. Fear grows fat on your attention. It feeds on every extra second you give it to whisper in your ear. The people who make that jump easily are not the people who feel no fear. They are the people who stopped giving fear more time to grow. They looked at the water once, took a breath, and jumped before the thinking could turn into stalling. Burning your boats works the same way. The longer you plan the perfect moment to do it, the more that moment slips away from you, buried under one more day of thinking instead of one more day of doing. Here is something worth remembering on the days when this feels impossibly hard. Every single person who ever built something worth having felt exactly what you are feeling right now at some point in their journey. The fear, the doubt, the quiet voice at 3 a.m. asking if this was all a terrible mistake. Nobody skips that part. There is no version of this story where the person who burns their boats simply feels calm and confident every single day after making the decision. They feel scared plenty of days. They just do not let the fear rebuild the boat. That is the entire difference between the people who make it and the people who do not. Not the absence of fear, the refusal to let fear steer the ship that no longer exists. Think about a soldier held somewhere far from home, in conditions built specifically to break the human spirit, who somehow keeps their mind intact by refusing to accept that their current situation is permanent, even in a place with no clear exit, no clear timeline, no clear promise that anything will ever get better. That soldier finds a way to keep some small part of themselves pointed toward the future, not by pretending the pain away, but by refusing to let the pain convince them that this is simply how the story ends. If a human being can do that in the worst conditions imaginable, conditions you and I will likely never face, then surely you can do it while sitting in the ordinary discomfort of chasing a goal that scares you a little. Your hard days are real. They are also survivable. Both things are true at once. Do not mistake burning your boats for a one-time event that finishes and never needs attention again. The fire has to be tended. There will be new boats built quietly, without your permission, by the same part of your mind that built the last ones. A month from now, a new comfortable excuse will show up, dressed up as wisdom, telling you to slow down, to take a break, to keep just one small option open, just this once, just to be safe. Recognize it for what it is. Burn it the same way you burned the first one. This is not a single decision made once and forgotten. This is a practice, a daily choice to keep the fire lit, to keep checking the beach behind you for any new boat quietly floating in on the tide, hoping you will not notice it until it is too late. Every morning from now on, ask yourself a simple question before you do anything else. What boat is trying to rebuild itself today? Some mornings the answer will be nothing, and you can move forward clean. Other mornings the answer will be obvious the second you ask it. The extra hour of sleep instead of the early start you promised yourself. The easy task instead of the hard one that actually matters. The comfortable conversation instead of the difficult one you have been avoiding. Name it. Burn it. Then get to work. You are not born to live a small, careful, well-protected life with every exit clearly marked and every risk carefully avoided. You were built for more than that, even if nobody ever told you so directly. Somewhere inside you is a version of yourself that already knows exactly what needs to be burned and exactly what needs to be built in its place. That version of you has been waiting patiently, maybe for years, for you to stop negotiating with comfort long enough to finally listen. Let us talk about the difference between burning a boat and simply pretending to. This matters more than people realize, because plenty of people convince themselves they have made a bold decision, when really, they have only made a loud one. They post about their new plan online. They tell everyone at dinner. They talk about the fire they lit, over and over, in every conversation for weeks. But talking about a fire is not the same as actually lighting one. A real burned boat does not need an audience to know it is gone. It is gone whether anyone claps for you or not. If you find yourself needing constant recognition for the boats you supposedly burned, ask yourself honestly whether the fire ever actually started, or whether you are still standing on the beach, describing a fire you have not lit yet, hoping the description alone will feel like enough. There is also a quiet trap waiting on the other side of burning your boats, one that almost nobody warns you about. It is the trap of turning the burning itself into the whole identity, instead of a starting point. Some people burn one boat, feel powerful for a week, and then spend the next several months telling that story, instead of building anything new on the shore they are now standing on. Burning the boat was never the goal. It was only the thing that removes the excuse. The actual goal is still out there, past the smoke, waiting for you to walk toward it. Do not fall in love with the fire so much that you forget to walk. Think about the space between the moment the ships burned on that beach long ago and the moment the battle was actually won. That space was not comfortable. It was not instantly triumphant. It was long and difficult and full of ordinary, unglamorous work that nobody writes songs about. The burning of the boats is the famous part of the story, the part everyone remembers and repeats. But it is only the first sentence of a much longer story that was mostly made of sweat, patience, and showing up again and again on days that offered no applause at all. Your version of this will look the same. The dramatic decision to burn the boat is the easy part, believe it or not. The long, quiet grind that comes after is where the real life gets built, one unremarkable day at a time. So do not expect fireworks every day after you make this decision. Expect Tuesday afternoons that feel exactly like every other Tuesday afternoon, except now you show up to them without an exit waiting in the back of your mind. Expect ordinary hours filled with ordinary effort, stacked one on top of another, slowly turning into something extraordinary only when you look back at them much later. The same way nobody notices a tree growing while they are standing right next to it. But everybody notices the forest from far away. There will be a specific day, sometime in the future, when all of this pays off in a way you cannot fully picture right now. You will not know exactly which day it is while it is happening. It rarely announces itself in advance. It usually looks like just another ordinary morning, where you woke up and did the work anyway, the same as every morning before it. But that ordinary morning will be sitting on top of hundreds of other ordinary mornings, where you refuse to turn back. And all of them together will finally add up to the moment where the old life you left behind on that burned beach becomes almost impossible to imagine ever going back to. Until that day arrives, your only job is simple, even if it is not easy. Wake up. Remember the fire. Remember there is no ship waiting for you anymore. And do the next right thing in front of you, whatever that happens to be today. Just the next honest step. The mountain gets climbed one honest step at a time by people who stop looking backward for the old, familiar path that used to be there. One more thing worth saying plainly. Before the walking begins in earnest, nobody is coming to check whether you actually burned your boats or only said you did. There is no judge standing on the shore with a clipboard confirming the fire was real before letting you continue forward. That job belongs only to you. Every single day, you get to quietly decide again whether the decision still holds, whether the ships are still ash, whether the way back is still truly gone. Nobody will ever know if you secretly rebuilt one in silence. Nobody except you. You already made the hardest decision the moment you truly meant those words. No way back. Everything after that is simply walking. Some days the walking will feel light. Some days it will feel like dragging your own body up a hill made of wet sand. Both kinds of days belong to the same journey. Both kinds of days are still forward. Remember why you started this in the first place, on the days when remembering feels hardest. Not because remembering fixes the difficulty, it does not, but because remembering reminds you that the fire was your choice, made with a clear head, for reasons that were true then and are still true now, even when today feels heavy. You did not burn the boats by accident. You did not lose them in a storm. You chose this, deliberately, with your eyes open. That choice deserves respect, especially from the one person who made it. Light the match. Watch the smoke rise. Turn around one last time if you need to. Take one final look at the shore, at the old comfortable life sitting there quietly, at every excuse and every exit and every soft landing you used to keep tucked away just in case. Say goodbye to it. Mean it. Then turn back around. Face whatever is in front of you and start walking. There is no ship behind you anymore. There never needs to be one again. No way back. Burn the boats. Walk forward, one step after another, for as long as it takes. Fail. Get up. Fail again. Get up again. That is the whole game. That is the only game there is. You want to know the secret behind every person you look up to, every person who has built something real, every person who walks into a room and commands it without saying a single word? They lost. Over and over and over again. They got knocked down more times than you have ever tried. They got told no more times than you have ever asked. They got embarrassed in public. They ran out of money. They ran out of ideas. They ran out of people who believed in them. And then they got up one more time. That is it. That is the whole secret. There is no magic. There is no shortcut. There is no version of this story where the winner never lost. Every single winner you have ever admired was first a loser who refused to stay on the floor. The difference between the person who made it and the person who did not is not intelligence, and it is not talent, and it is not the breaks they got along the way. It is that the person who made it got up every single time they were knocked down. That is it. That is the only difference that matters. Stop pretending that failure is the problem. Failure is not your problem. Quitting is your problem. Staying down is your problem. Looking at the ground and deciding the ground is where you belong. That is your problem. Because the ground is not your home. You did not come this far in life to sleep on the floor and call it living. You were built for more than that. You know you were built for more than that. And somewhere deep in you, that thing is still alive. That thing that says get up. That thing that says try again. That thing that says this is not over. Listen to that thing. Because that thing is the only part of you that has been telling you the truth this whole time. Everything else, the fear, the doubt, the voice that says maybe you should quit, the part of you that is trying to negotiate a reason to stay down, that is all noise. That thing that says get up is the only signal worth following. It has never lied to you. It will not lie to you now. Right now, somebody out there is watching you. Your family is watching. Your kids are watching. The people who wrote you off are watching. The question is not whether people are paying attention. The question is what they are going to see. Are they going to see somebody who tried once, got hit, and decided it was not worth it anymore? Or are they going to see somebody who got knocked all the way down to nothing, looked up from the bottom, and climbed back anyway? Be the second person. Not for them, for yourself. Because the version of you that gets back up is the version of you that actually lives. The world does not remember people who tried once and quit when it got hard. The world remembers people who could not be stopped no matter what came at them. Think about what it really means to win. Not the Instagram version of winning. Not the highlight reel. Not the trophy photo where everybody is smiling and it looks like it all came together effortlessly and without any real cost. The real thing. Because the real thing is not clean. It is not pretty. It does not come with a perfect story that makes sense from start to finish. The real version of winning is a mess. It is full of nights where you did not know if what you were doing was ever going to work. It is full of mornings where you woke up and the fear was the first thing you felt before you even opened your eyes. It is full of moments where you looked at everything you had put in, everything you had sacrificed, everything you had given up, everything you had lost along the way, and you wondered if you should just walk away from all of it. That is what winning actually looks like from the inside. And the only people who ever get to the other side of that are the ones who decide the mess does not get to stop them. Every person who has ever built something that lasts had a version of their story where they had nothing. Not just a little less than they have now. Nothing. The guy who runs the company you wish you worked for. There was a day he could not make payroll. He sat at a desk alone at midnight staring at numbers that did not add up and wondering if he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He wondered if everyone who told him it would not work had been right this whole time. The athlete whose highlights you watch on repeat. There was a season he could not get off the bench. He sat on the sideline game after game, watching other people get the chance he wanted, while something inside him was slowly dying from the weight. And that whole story is made of the same two things over and over again, falling down and getting back up. If that is not going to be your story, if you are going to be the person who falls once and stays down, then you need to understand what that choice actually costs you. It cost you everything you could have been. It cost you the version of yourself that was possible. And that version does not disappear quietly. It stays with you. It sits in the back of your mind every time you see somebody else doing the thing you were too afraid to try again. It whispers to you at night when everything is quiet and there is nothing left to distract you from the truth of your own life. It shows up at your worst moments and asks you the question you are most afraid to answer. What if you had tried one more time? What if that one more time was the time it worked? You are never going to know, because you stopped. And that is a weight that does not get lighter with age. it gets heavier. Every single year you carry it, it gets a little heavier. Do not sign yourself up for a life carrying that weight. Here is what nobody is going to tell you. Nobody is coming to rescue you from your failure. Nobody is sitting somewhere right now making plans to pull you out of your situation and put you back on your feet. Nobody cares that you fell. Nobody cares that it was hard. Nobody cares that the circumstances were unfair, or that the timing was bad, or that you had very legitimate reasons why it did not work out. Everybody has reasons. Everybody has circumstances that made things harder. Everybody has a story about why it did not work out the way they planned. The world is absolutely full of people with reasons. What the world is desperately short on is people who said the reasons do not matter, I am going anyway. Your failure is yours, every single piece of it. The same way your success will be completely yours when you finally get there. You do not get to outsource the responsibility. There is no one else. There is just you and the decision you are going to make right now about what comes next. And that decision is simple even if it does not feel simple. You get back up, or you stay down. Those are the only two options on the table. Nobody is going to come to your door and drag you out of bed and force you to try again. That is your job. That has always been your job. And the sooner you truly understand that, not just hear it but feel it in your chest and accept it without looking for a way around it, the sooner your life actually starts to change. No one is going to give a single thought to what you could have been. The world does not mourn potential. It does not stop and hold funerals for people who had everything it took to win but decided to quit halfway through. Nobody writes speeches about the guy who almost made it. Nobody puts up statues for the woman who had the idea but did not follow through on it when it counted. If you do not do the work, if you do not get back up, if you do not try again, you will simply not matter to the story. And the worst part is that you will know it. That is the cruelest part of all of this. You will spend the rest of your life knowing exactly what you walked away from, and you will have to live inside that knowing every single day. That is not something anybody can rescue you from. Not your friends, not your family, not anyone. The only person who can make that right is you, and the only way to make it right is to get up right now and go again. You want to talk about what winning actually requires? Let us talk about it honestly and directly. No sugarcoating, no comfortable version of the truth. Winning requires you to be the kind of person who can take a real loss and not let it define them. That is a skill. It is not something you were born with. Nobody comes into this world resilient. Resilience is something you build by choosing, every single time life knocks you down, to get back up instead of staying on the floor. The first time you get up after a real loss is the hardest thing you have ever done. The second time is a little easier, because you already know you survived the first time and you are still here. By the 10th time you have been knocked down and gotten back up, something has changed in you permanently. Something has hardened, not in a bitter way, not in a cold way, in a strong way, in a way that makes you look at a new obstacle and think, I have been through worse than this. I am still standing. This is not going to be the thing that stops me either. That is what the people who win are made of. Not talent, not luck, not being born into the right circumstances or knowing the right people, or having advantages that made the path easier. What they are fundamentally made of is a refusal to let a loss be the last word. They take the hit. They feel it fully. They do not pretend it does not hurt, because it always hurts. Real losses always hurt. But they do not let the pain make the decision about what happens next. They let their will make that decision. And their will says the same thing every single time. We are not done. We have never been done. We will not be done until we decide to be done. And today is not that day. Discipline is what makes all of that possible. Not motivation. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are completely unreliable when you actually need them. You will not feel motivated on the day after your biggest failure. You will feel crushed. You will feel tired in a way that sleep does not fix, and rest does not touch. You will feel like maybe this was never really meant for you, and maybe the people who doubted you were right all along. That is the feeling talking. That is not the truth. Discipline is what you use when the feeling is lying to you. Discipline is what gets you out of bed when everything in you wants to stay under the covers and not face the world for another day. Discipline is what makes you open the laptop, lace up the shoes, make the call, send the email, and start from zero again. Not because you feel like it, but because you decided before the feeling had any say in the matter that you are the kind of person who does not quit. Motivation is a guest that comes and goes whenever it feels like it. Discipline is the foundation you build your entire life on, and if your foundation is soft, if the only time you work is when you feel like it, then everything you build on top of that is fragile and one hard wind away from coming down. Build the real foundation. Put everything else on top of it. Do not wait until you feel ready. You will never feel ready after a real loss. You will feel scared and unsure, and like you need more time and more information and more certainty before you can possibly take another step forward. But readiness is not something that arrives before you start. Readiness is something you build by starting anyway, while you are still afraid, while you are still unsure, while you still do not know for certain that it is going to work this time. The people who are winning right now did not wait until they felt ready. They started while they were still terrified, and with every step they took in spite of the fear got a little smaller, and the confidence got a little bigger. That is how it always works, not the other way around. Action first, feeling second, always. Let us be completely honest about what failure actually is, because most people have the wrong idea about it, and that wrong idea is costing them everything. They think failure is a verdict on them as a person. They think that when something does not work, it is the universe handing down a judgment about who they are and what they deserve to have. That is completely and entirely backwards. Failure is not a verdict. Failure is data. It is information. It is the world showing you what did not work so you can adjust and try differently next time. Every loss contains a lesson if you are willing to look for it instead of just suffering through it and feeling sorry for yourself. The question after every failure is not, why did this happen to me? The question is, what can I learn from this? And how do I use it to come back stronger than I was before I walked in? Think about every great inventor, every great athlete, every great builder you have ever heard about. Not one of them has a story without failure, not a single one. Some of them failed so many times and in such public, embarrassing, costly ways that most people would have buried themselves in shame and never shown their face again. But they did not see their failures as proof that they could not do it. They saw each failure as proof that they were getting closer to the thing that would work. They saw each failure as one more thing crossed off the list of what does not work. They got better and smarter and more capable with every loss, because they refused to waste a loss by just suffering through it without taking anything useful from it. They found the lesson every time. They made adjustments every time. They went back in smarter than they came out. That is available to you right now. Not someday, right now. The person who has failed 10 times and gotten up 10 times is not behind the person who has never failed. They are way ahead, because they have been tested. They have been through fires the other person has never faced, and they came out the other side still intact. They have proven to themselves and to the world that they cannot be stopped by a bad result. And that is the most valuable thing you can ever prove. Not that you are talented, not that you are smart, not that you had great advantages. That you cannot be stopped, because talent without resilience is worthless, and you see it go to waste every day. Smart people quit, advantages disappear. But the person who cannot be stopped by failure, that person eventually gets to wherever they are going, because they will not accept any other destination. They will keep moving until they get there, no matter how long it takes. Here is what happens inside you when you stay down after a loss. When you take the hit and decide not to get back up, it does not just affect that one area of your life. It spreads like a stain through everything else. Every single time you let a loss stop you, you are teaching yourself something important about who you are. You are teaching yourself that losses stop you. And that lesson gets deeper and more automatic and more hardwired into how you operate every single time you confirm it. It becomes part of how you see yourself. It becomes the default answer to the question of what you do when things get hard. And before long, you are not just someone who quit that one time for that one reason. You are someone who quits. That becomes your identity. Not because someone labeled you that way from the outside, because you lived it enough times that it became the story you tell yourself about who you are. And that is the most dangerous kind of identity to build. Now flip it around completely. Every time you take a loss and get back up, you are also teaching yourself something. You are teaching yourself that losses do not stop you, that you are the kind of person who gets back up no matter what comes. That lesson gets deeper every time you confirm it too. Every time you choose to get up, the next choice is a little easier to make, because you already know who you are. By the time you have gotten up after 10 real losses, after 20, after 50, you have built an identity that cannot be shaken by a bad day, or a bad year, or even a catastrophic failure that cost you everything you built. You are the person who gets back up, not just something you do, but who you are at the core. And when that is who you are, the losses lose their power over you. They become just another thing that happens on the way to where you are going. This is why the most successful people seem almost impossible to knock down for good. It is not that nothing bad happens to them. Terrible things happen to them all the time. Companies collapse. Partnerships they trusted completely fall apart. Years of hard work disappear overnight. Health crises knock them flat. But none of it finishes them, because they have been through enough fires and walked out of enough fires that a new fire does not break them the way it would break someone who has never been truly tested in their life. They have built the muscle, the get-up muscle, and that muscle was built one decision at a time, over many years, and many losses, and many mornings, when everything said stay down, and they got up anyway. You build that exact same muscle, the same exact way, one decision at a time, starting right now. The difference between you and the person you want to become is not as wide as it feels right now in this moment. It is not about natural talent, and it is not about intelligence, and it is not about where you started, or what advantages you had or did not have along the way. It is about what you do with your losses. Do you let them bury you, or do you use them to build something in you that could not have been built any other way? That is the whole difference. And you get to choose which kind of person you are going to be. Nobody is making that choice for you. It belongs to you completely. And that is the most powerful fact in the world, that this entire thing is entirely in your hands right now. There comes a moment in every person's life where something hits hard enough that a real choice must be made. Not a surface-level choice about which direction to take on a small decision. A deep one, about whether you are going to get back up and try again, or whether this is where your story stops. That moment is the most important moment of your life. Not your best day. Not any of the celebrated milestones you have hit. The moment when you are at the bottom with nothing left but the choice itself, and you have to decide whether you are the kind of person who gets back up. Because what you do in that moment determines everything that follows from it. If you get up, if you reach down into whatever you have left, even if it feels like almost nothing, and find the will to try one more time, everything is still possible. The story is not over. The version of you that you have carried in your mind since you were young, doing something that matters and living something worth living, that is still reachable. It might take more time than you planned, and it might look different from what you originally imagined, but it is still there, and that possibility is everything. As long as you are still in the game, you can win. As long as you are still stepping up and taking your swings, one of them will eventually connect. If you stay down, if you let the loss be the final word on you, then the story ends, and you will live the rest of your life knowing exactly how it ended. Not in a dramatic way, in a quiet, everyday way that shows up in the middle of ordinary Tuesday afternoons for years and years to come. You will carry it not just as a regret, but as an identity. The person who had what it took and did not use it. The person who could have kept going and chose to stop. I am telling you with complete certainty, that weight is heavier than any failure you have ever experienced. The regret of not trying is always worse than the pain of failing. Always. Because failure at least means you were in the arena. Regret means you stood outside watching your own life happen without you in it. The people you admire most did not escape failure. They walked straight into it and through it. They got hit the same way you have been hit. Some of them got hit harder and lost more, and had to start completely over not once but many times over the course of building their life. They are still here. They are still building. Because somewhere inside them is a thing that refuses to accept a loss as a permanent condition. A thing that says, this is temporary, this is just one chapter, this is not the whole book. Find that thing in yourself. It has been there your whole life. You have felt it before. The only question worth asking right now is whether you are going to listen to it. What you do with your failure says everything about who you are, not the failure itself, not how bad it was or how public or how costly it turned out to be. What you do after it. Anybody can perform when things are going right, and the momentum is in their favor, and the wind is at their back. That costs nothing. That takes no real strength. The real test, the only test that matters in this life, is what you do when everything goes wrong at once, when the plan falls apart completely, when the people you counted on disappear, when the money runs thin and the options look like they are shrinking by the day, and the future does not look like what you were building toward at all. What do you do then? Who do you choose to be in that exact moment? That is the question, and you get to answer it. You are not your worst loss. You are not the deal that fell through, or the dream that did not work the first time, or the year that went completely sideways. Those things happen to you, but they do not define who you are. You are what you decide to do next. You are the choice you make when you are standing at the bottom with nothing left but the choice itself. You are the one more attempt. You are the refusal to let this be the ending of your story. That is who you are, or that is who you can decide to be right now, right here. Take full ownership. Take ownership of the loss and take ownership of the comeback. Take ownership of the mistakes that brought you here, and take ownership of the actions that are going to get you out. Stop spending your energy looking for something to blame. Blame does not rebuild what fell apart. Blame does not get you off the floor. Blame does not move you 1 inch forward. Blame is what you do when you want to feel better about staying down without actually doing anything about your situation. It keeps you locked in the story of why it happened instead of moving you toward what happens next. You are responsible for where you are. That is a hard truth to sit with, but it is also the most freeing truth there is. Because if you are responsible for where you are, then you are also responsible for where you go from here. Nobody else gets to determine that. It is yours to build or yours to waste. That choice is yours, and nobody can take it from you. Let us talk about what it really means to try again. Not just going through the motions, not just showing up and putting in half the effort and calling it a comeback. Really trying again. That means you go back in with everything you have. That means you go back in more committed than you were the first time, because now you know what it costs to fail, and you are not willing to pay that price again. That means you do the work in the dark. The early mornings before anyone is awake. The late nights after everyone else has gone home. The long, boring, unglamorous hours of doing the thing that needs to be done with no audience and no applause and no reward except the knowledge that you are moving toward where you want to be. That is what it means to really try again. Most people think a comeback looks dramatic. They think it is this big, obvious turning point where everything suddenly changes and you can feel the momentum shift and the story starts going in a new direction. That is not what it looks like from the inside. From the inside, a real comeback looks like just another day of doing the work. It looks like one more workout, one more rejection letter before the one that says yes, one more pitch before the deal finally closes, one more day of building something that does not have a visible result yet. The comeback is made of ordinary days that do not feel like anything. The only thing different about those ordinary days compared to the ordinary days when you were losing is that you are still in it. You are still showing up. You have not stopped. That is the whole difference. The people who turned their losses into comebacks did it by doing ordinary things every day without stopping. That is available to you right now. You want to know what separates the people who try again from the people who stay down? It is not that the people who try again are braver in some natural way. It is not that they do not feel the fear. They feel the exact same fear you feel. The exact same doubt. The exact same voice that says, what if it does not work again? The only difference is what they do with that fear. They do not wait for it to go away before they move. They move while it is still there. They take the fear with them into the work. They let it sit in the passenger seat and they drive anyway. That is the whole thing. That is the move that looks like courage from the outside, but from the inside is just a decision to not let the fear be the one making the choices. And here is the thing about fear that nobody talks about honestly. The fear you feel before you try again is always louder than the fear you feel once you have started. It is biggest and loudest before you take the first step. The moment you actually start, The moment you actually do the thing, the fear gets smaller. Not gone, smaller. And then as you keep going, it gets smaller still. Not because the risk is gone, but because you are inside the work now, and the work is real, and the fear is just a feeling, and feelings do not get to run the show when you have decided that your will runs the show. So stop waiting for the fear to leave before you start. Start. The fear will adjust. There is something I want you to understand about the long game, about what it looks like to stay committed to something for years when the results are not there yet, when the scoreboard does not reflect the effort you are putting in, when everyone around you has moved on and stopped believing it is going to happen, and you are the only one who is still showing up every single day and grinding through the invisible part of the work. That phase is the phase that most people cannot survive. Not because it is physically impossible, but because their mind cannot hold on to the belief when the evidence is not there to support it. They need to see results to keep believing. And when the results take too long to come, the belief dies. And when the belief dies, the effort dies with it. And when the effort dies, the results they were waiting for can never come. The people who make it through that phase, the long, dark, invisible phase where nothing is working and nothing is showing, and the world has completely stopped caring, those people have something different going on. They have decided that the belief does not need to be supported by current evidence. They have decided that the results are coming even though they cannot see them yet. They have decided that the work they are putting in right now is building something that has not shown up on the outside yet, but is absolutely there on the inside. And that decision, to believe before the evidence arrives, is what carries them through the phase that kills everyone else's commitment. You have to develop that same thing. You have to build the ability to do the work without the reward, and to believe without the proof, and to keep going without any external confirmation that you are headed somewhere real. Because that is the phase you are in, or the phase you are going to be in. And the only way through it is through it. You cannot go around. You cannot speed up the process by wanting it harder. You can only stay in it. Keep doing the work. Keep your belief alive without evidence to support it, and trust that if you do not stop, the results will eventually catch up to the effort you have been putting in. Set a standard for yourself and protect it like it is the most important thing you own. Because it is. If you said you were going to do something, do it. Not when you feel like it. Not when the conditions are perfect. Every time. Rain, no rain, tired, fired up, it does not matter. Every time. If you said you were going to show up for yourself today, show up. If you said you were going to try again, try again. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you are weakening the one relationship in your life that determines everything else, the relationship with yourself. And every time you keep that promise, you are strengthening it. You are telling yourself that you can be counted on, that when you say something is going to happen, it happens. That is where the deepest confidence comes from. Not from praise, not from results, from knowing that you keep your word to yourself when nobody else is watching and there is no external reason to do it except that you said you would. That is the kind of person who wins, not eventually, consistently, because that kind of person has built a foundation that does not crack under pressure. They have proven to themselves over and over and over again that they cannot be talked out of what they decided to do, not by fear, not by failure, not by the absence of results, not by the people around them who stopped believing. They are going. They were always going to keep going, and because of that, they will eventually arrive somewhere worth arriving, and so will you, if you decide right now that you are that person. If you decide right now that you are going to be the one who does not stop, this is what I want you to walk away with. Not just a feeling in your chest that fades by tomorrow morning. Not just a burst of energy that disappears the moment life gets uncomfortable again. A decision. A real, permanent decision about who you are going to be from this point forward. Because decisions stick in a way that feelings never do. Feelings come and go on their own schedule, and you have no control over that. But a decision is something you made, something you chose with full awareness. So make it right now. Decide that failure is not the end of your story. Decide that every time you get knocked down, you are going to get back up. Decide that the life that is possible for you is worth every loss and every embarrassment and every setback you are going to have to walk through to get there. Decide that you are not going to be the person who stays on the floor. The winners you look up to did not win because they never lost. They won because every single time they lost, they got back up. Not because it was comfortable, not because they were certain it would work the next time, not because somebody came along and told them it was going to be okay and handed them a reason to try again. They got up because they refused to accept staying down as a real option. They got up because the version of themselves they were building was worth more to them than the comfort of stopping. They got up because deep in them, deeper than the fear and the exhaustion and the doubt and all the reasons to quit, there was something that simply would not stop. That same thing is in you. It has been in you your entire life. It is there right now, waiting for you to use it. You are not too far down. You have not been on the floor too long. You have not failed too many times for a comeback to be possible. None of that is true. The only thing that makes any of that true is the decision to stop trying. And you are not going to make that decision. You are going to get up. You are going to try again. You are going to put in the work when nobody is watching and nobody is applauding, and there is no guarantee that any of it is going to pay off on a schedule you can predict. Because that is what it takes. That is the price of everything worth having in this life. Not talent, not luck, not a perfect plan with zero obstacles and no setbacks. Just the willingness to keep going when going is the hardest thing in the world, and everything is telling you to stop. Go try again. Go fail if you have to. Go fail 10 more times if that is what the path requires of you. Because on the other side of those failures is the version of you that has been waiting. The one that always had the potential, but needed the losses to forge it into something real and hard and unbreakable. That version is waiting. It does not care how many times you fell. It only cares that you got back up. So get up. Try one more time. Then one more time after that. Keep going until the day comes when you are standing somewhere you never fully believed you would stand, having become someone you never completely believed you could become, not because everything went right, but because you refused to stay down when everything went wrong. You were the loser who tried again, and then again, and then again, until you were not a loser anymore, until you were exactly what you always had the potential to be. Do not waste it. The world does not need another person who had what it took and decided not to use it. The world needs the version of you that gets back up. So get back up. That is the whole thing. Just get back up. If it was easy, everyone would have it. Read that again. Read it one more time. Because if you actually understood what those 7 words meant, you would stop complaining tonight. You would stop making excuses tonight. You would stop asking why it's taking so long, and why it's so hard, and why it feels like the whole world is working against you. If it was easy, everyone would have it. The life you want, the body you want, the money you want, the peace you want. If any of that was easy to get, it would already be gone. Somebody else would have taken it. Somebody hungrier, somebody who woke up earlier, somebody who didn't need a speech just to get off the couch. The fact that it's hard is not the problem. The fact that it's hard is the whole point. The hard is the door. And most people are standing right in front of that door every single day of their lives, turning around and going back to bed instead of walking through it. And then they have the nerve to wonder why their life looks exactly the same as it did 3 years ago. Think about what you actually want, not the cleaned up version of it. Not the version you post about, the real thing, the one you think about when nobody's around. Maybe it's a business that actually pays you enough to stop holding your breath every time a bill shows up. Maybe it's getting into the kind of shape where you can look in the mirror without looking away. Maybe it's getting out of a job that is slowly killing you one Monday morning at a time. Maybe it's becoming the kind of person your kids can actually point to and be proud of. Whatever it is, hold that picture right now. Now ask yourself one straight question. If getting that thing was as easy as scrolling your phone, as easy as watching a video, as easy as talking about it over drinks, do you really think you'd be the one holding it? You wouldn't. Some other guy with no hesitation and no second guessing would have blown past you and grabbed it before you even finished thinking about whether you were ready. The heart is what keeps the wrong people out. Right now it's keeping you out too. The only thing left to figure out is what you're going to do about that. Most people have this completely backwards. They think difficulty means something is wrong. They feel the resistance and they take it as a sign to stop. slow down, turn around. They hit one wall and say, this isn't for me. They get tired for 2 weeks and say, maybe I picked the wrong thing. They fail once, twice, 3 times and say, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. And that's exactly where they go wrong. Difficulty is not a warning, it's a filter. It has been doing that job since the beginning. Every single thing worth having, every business, every strong body, every relationship built on real trust, every skill that actually pays, all of it is sitting behind a wall of difficulty that most people refuse to climb. That's not a bug. That's the whole design. The difficulty is what makes the thing worth having. You don't hold on to things that came easy. You don't fight for things that cost you nothing. You don't take care of things you never had to work for. The things you bleed for are the things you keep. That's not something someone wrote on a wall. That's just how people work. And once you really get that, not just nod at it but actually get it, the hard stops feeling like a punishment. It starts feeling like a signal. A signal that you're moving towards something real, that you're standing somewhere most people already turned back from, that if you keep going, what's waiting on the other side is not going to be handed to anyone who didn't pay the same price you paid. Nobody tells you this when you're starting out. Nobody sits you down and says, look, this road you're about to walk is going to be rough. It's going to take longer than you think. It's going to cost more than you planned. There are going to be nights where you're lying in the dark, genuinely wondering if any of it is worth it. Nobody tells you that because most people around you never went far enough to know what it actually looks like. They stopped early. They played it safe. They kept their heads down and swapped the life they wanted for the life that was handed to them. Then they told themselves that was the smart move, the grown-up move. And when you start going in a different direction, when you start putting in work nobody around you gets, some of those same people are going to look at you sideways. They'll ask why you're pushing so hard. They'll tell you to slow down. They'll wrap their doubt in worry and hand it to you like it's a gift. And you're going to have to be solid enough to keep going regardless. Not because you don't care about them, not because they're bad people, but because they never went far enough to know what they're talking about. Here's something most people don't want to sit with. Most people don't actually want the thing they say want. They want the feeling of wanting it. They want to talk about it and think about it, and feel good about themselves for having the goal. But when Monday morning comes, and the actual work is sitting right there in front of them, most people go quiet, and they don't even catch themselves doing it. They say they'll start next week. They say they need to do more research. They say they're waiting for the right time. And all of that is just a dressed up way of saying I'm scared, and I can't say it out loud. Because the truth is there is no right time. There was never going to be a right time. The right time was 3 years ago, and since you missed that one, the right time is right now. Not next month, not after the holidays, not after you feel more ready or more sure about how it's going to go. Right now, with what you have, with what you know, with the fear that's already sitting in your chest. Because the fear doesn't go away before you start. The fear goes away because you start. Every single person you look up to who has the thing you want was scared too. They just decided the fear wasn't a good enough reason to stop. They decided moving scared was better than standing still comfortable. And that one call, made over and over every single day, is the gap between the life you have and the life you're after. Let's talk about what easy actually costs. People act like picking the easy road is free. Like staying comfortable, staying safe, staying in the zone where nothing ever challenges them. Like that's a neutral thing. It's not. Every day you pick easy over hard, you are paying. You're paying with what you could have been. You're paying with the way you see yourself when nobody's looking. You're paying with that low hum in the back of your head, telling you that you are not living anywhere close to what you're capable of. And that hum doesn't quit. You can drown it in entertainment and noise, and staying busy with garbage that doesn't matter, but it's always there. It comes back at 2 a.m. when the distractions run out and it's just you and the ceiling. It comes back when you see somebody else doing the exact thing you always said you were going to do. It comes back when someone asks what you've been up to, and the honest answer is nothing. Nothing that pushed you, nothing that changed you, nothing that cost you a single thing. And that feeling, that hollow, slow, suffocating feeling, that is the real price of easy. Not the grind of a hard road, the quiet rot of a comfortable one. Think about the last time something was actually hard, not annoying. not inconvenient, actually hard, where you didn't know if you could do it, where everything in you was saying stop and you had to fight to keep going. Think about how you felt when you got through it. Think about what it did to the way you see yourself. Something happens on the other side of hard that can't happen any other way. There's a kind of confidence that only gets built in those moments. Not the fake kind that comes from hype and people hyping you up and telling you you're great, the real kind. The quiet kind. The kind where you know something about yourself that you didn't know before. Where you look back at the thing that almost broke you and realize it didn't. And that changes everything going forward. Because the next time something hard shows up, and it will, you walk into it differently. You've got a record inside yourself. A record that says I've been here before. It was ugly, I didn't want to keep going, and I kept going. That record is the most useful thing you own. Worth more than money, worth more than who you know, worth more than raw talent. Because talent with no record of survival is just potential, and potential that never gets tested is just noise. Winners are not made from winning. That's the lie the highlight reel sells you. You see the trophy, you see the celebration, you see the smile. You don't see the years before that. You don't see the practice sessions nobody came to watch. The days where nothing was clicking, and the person showed up anyway. The things they gave up, the people they lost, the doubt they choked down over and over and over. Nobody films the grinding season. Nobody posts about the years before the break. So you look at someone's finished result, and it looks natural. It looks like they were just built for it. And you compare that finished version to where you're starting, and you feel like you're already behind. You feel like you don't have what it takes. And the whole comparison is broken because you're stacking your beginning against somebody else's chapter 20. Stop it. Their chapter 20 was built one hard day at a time. Your chapter 20 is being built right now, today, with whatever you're choosing to do or not do. The grinding season is not the waiting room before real life starts. The grinding season is where real life gets made. And the people who made it through that grinding season will tell you the same thing every single time. They didn't always know it was going to work. Most of them didn't. Most of them were running on nothing but stubbornness and the refusal to let themselves stop. They woke up on days where nothing made sense, where the numbers weren't moving, where nobody around them bought into what they were doing, and they did the work anyway. Not because they had some secret well of confidence you don't have access to, but because they had made a decision that was bigger than a mood. They decided that how they felt on a given morning was not the one in charge. The work was in charge. The goal was in charge. The version of themselves they were trying to build was in charge. And everything else, the bad days, the doubt, the outside noise, all of that was just weather. You don't cancel your life because it rains. You put something on and you go. That's all discipline actually is. Knowing what needs to get done, and doing it whether or not the conditions are right. The conditions are almost never right. So you go anyway. Let me tell you what happens when a person actually decides. Not when they think about deciding. Not when they talk about deciding. When they actually do it. When something clicks and they stop going back and forth and they just commit. What happens is not some dramatic shift. It's not magic. It's not a montage. What happens is unglamorous and simple. They do the work even when they don't feel like it. That's it. That's the whole thing. The person who ends up with the life they want is not some different species from the person who doesn't. Not smarter, not more talented, didn't get handed more. The difference is, they stopped letting their feelings run their schedule. It didn't matter if they were tired or scared or unmotivated or unsure. The work got done because the work needed to get done, period. And that ability to move when everything inside you is saying don't, that's a muscle. It gets built exactly like every other muscle. The first time you push through when you don't want to, it feels like dying. The 10th time it's still rough. The 100th time it starts to feel like who you are. And once it's who you are, your life changes. Not because the world changed, because you did. Because you are no longer someone who stops when it gets hard. You are someone who keeps going. And those are two completely different people, living two completely different lives. There's a stretch that nobody prepares you for. It comes somewhere in the middle of building anything real. After the excitement of starting has worn off and before the results have shown up, this is where most people quit. In the beginning there's energy. There's the buzz of a new decision. You told people. You set the target. You got moving and it felt good. but weeks pass. Then months. The buzz is gone and nothing is showing yet, and you're just in the work with nothing to show for it. No sign it's working, no feedback, no validation, nothing. And this is exactly where the pull toward easy is loudest. This is where comfort feels the most like sense. This is the stretch where the people who actually want it pull away from the people who just thought they did. The people who get through this stretch are not the ones who stayed fired up. Being fired up is worthless here. The ones who get through are the ones whose decision was bigger than their feelings. The ones who said, I'm not letting how I feel on a Tuesday at 7 a.m. decide whether I show up. I said I was going to do this. And I don't have a version of that promise that has an exception for when it gets hard. I'm going. Not because it feels good. Not because I can see the end. But because I said I would. And I'm the kind of person who keeps that. Even when the only person watching is me. Especially then. Row more. Now I want to talk about the people around you, because this part is real and it hurts, and most people don't say it. When you start changing, when you start taking your own life seriously, when you start building something, when you start choosing the grind over the couch every single day, some of the people closest to you are not going to be happy about it. Not because they're bad people, not because they want you to fail, but because what you're doing holds up a mirror. When they see you doing the hard thing, going after something real, actually moving, they see themselves standing still, and that is uncomfortable. That is really uncomfortable. And people handle that discomfort one of two ways. Some look at you and say if they can do it, maybe I can too. Keep those people close. But some people do something else. Some try to pull you back down. They poke holes in your plan. They remind you of every time you've started something and didn't finish. They dress their doubt up as concern and hand it to you. And here's what you have to understand about those people. Their doubt is not about you. It's about them. They're taking their own fear of trying, their own fear of failing, their own unwillingness to go through the hard thing, and they're parking it on you. And if you let them, they will stop you. Not because they're stronger than you, but because doubt from someone you love gets inside you in a way your own doubt never could. Be careful whose voice you give a home to in your head. Not everyone who loves you can see what you're building. Not everyone who means well can give you useful advice about a road they never walked. You can care about people and still not let them touch your vision. And here's the other side of this that nobody talks about. The longer you walk this road, the fewer people walk it with you. That's just what happens. When you're committed to something most people won't commit to, when you operate at a level most people won't, the group gets thin. Not because you're above anyone, just because most people eventually stop. Most people decide somewhere along the way that it costs too much, that they'd rather have a comfortable life than a hard one, and you keep going. And one day you look up and you're in a room with a fraction of the people you started with. That loneliness is real. Don't let anyone convince you it isn't. It's one of the heaviest parts of this whole thing. But here's the thing about that loneliness that people miss. It's not empty, it's full. Full of the proof that you didn't fold at the spots where everyone else folded. Full of the knowledge that you made it past every exit everybody else took. Full of a kind of self-respect that you cannot buy and cannot fake and cannot get any other way except by actually going through the thing. The people who quit don't get to feel that. They get comfort, they get ease, but they don't get that. And once you feel it, once you're far enough in to know what it's like to still be standing when most people aren't, you stop being afraid of the loneliness. It stops feeling like something wrong. It starts feeling like confirmation, like a signal from the road itself that says you're still going, you haven't stopped, you're still in it. And that loneliness is telling you something important. It means you didn't stop where everyone else stopped. It means you walked past every exit everyone else took. It means you're in territory most people never reach. And what's waiting there is something most people never get. Not just what you've been building toward, but a kind of knowing, a quiet that comes from having pushed past every wall you thought was your ceiling, and finding out you were bigger than all of them. Let me talk about failure for a second, because most people get this wrong. We treat failure like it's the opposite of success, like they're on opposite sides of the room and you have to pick one. That's not how it works. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is the road to it. There is no other road. Every single person who has built anything real has a stack of failures most people never hear about. Not one or two, A long, expensive, embarrassing, sometimes humiliating pile of times it didn't work. Times the plan blew up. Times they made the wrong call and paid for it hard. Times they were dead sure they had it figured out, and then found out they didn't. And every one of those moments taught them something that no amount of reading, or planning, or preparing ever could have. Failure teaches you in a language nothing else speaks. It shows you exactly where you're soft. It shows you exactly what's missing. It shows you the specific thing you have to fix before you can go further. And if you're willing to stay in the room after it happens and look at it straight, without flinching, without making excuses, without pointing at someone else, it becomes the most useful thing that ever happened to you. The problem is most people won't stay in the room. Most people fail and they leave. They say I tried and it didn't work and they walk. And in walking they take nothing from it. They waste the failure. Then they spend the rest of their life telling people they tried and it just wasn't for them. And that story, that convenient story, is the most expensive thing they ever bought. Because what they walked away from wasn't just the failure. They walked away from the exact lesson that would have unlocked the next step. They were one conversation, one tweak, one round of trying differently away from something real. And they'll never know it because they left. Don't do that. Don't waste what your failures are handing you. They cost too much. Sit with them. Get honest about what they're showing you. And then go again with that in your hand. Because the person who gets back up with a lesson is a completely different person than the one who got knocked down. You're not starting over. You're starting smarter. And smarter in the right direction is how this thing eventually gets won. Because here's what doesn't make the posters. The person who wins is not the sharpest, not the most talented, not the one with the best plan, or the most money, or the most connections, or the most breaks. The person who wins is the one who got back up the most times. That's the whole thing. Get knocked down, get up. Get knocked down harder, get up. Get knocked down so hard you can't breathe. Lay there if you need to, and then get up. Life doesn't give the prize to the most deserving. It gives the prize to the last one standing. If you can outlast everyone else, if you can keep showing up after every loss, every setback, every moment where stopping would have made complete sense, eventually it's just you and what you've been building. No fight, no competition. Just you picking up what you earned. That's not a speech. That is literally how it goes. You show up long enough and the competition disappears because they all chose out. They all tapped out. And you're still here, still in it, still doing the work. And at some point it pays. At some point all those days of getting back up turn into something real. Something you can see. Something nobody can pull out of your hands. Because nobody can take back what you went through to build it. Let me say something about comfort, and some of you are not going to like it. Comfort is not your friend. I know that's not what everything around you is saying right now. The whole world is telling you to protect your peace, rest more, take it easy on yourself. And look, rest is real. You can't run on empty forever. That's true. But there's a version of comfort that isn't rest. There's a version that is just shrinking. Slowly, quietly bringing your life down to the size of things that will never push you. Where every day is manageable and acceptable and fine. And fine is the most dangerous place a person can live. Fine means nothing is bad enough to make you move. Fine means you can stay exactly where you are forever and never have a reason to change. Fine is just a slow disappearing act. The person in a bad enough situation gets moving. The person who is genuinely doing well has the energy to keep pushing. But the person who is fine, that person is stuck. Comfortably, quietly, completely stuck. And the years go by and the dreams get quieter and the reasons to stay get louder, and one day they look up and most of their life is already behind them and they realize fine was never a place to settle. Fine was a place to pass through. Get uncomfortable, on purpose, regularly. Put yourself in spots that go past what you're sure you can handle. Take on the thing that scares you. Start the project that's bigger than anything you've done before. Have the conversation you've been ducking. Put real money and real stakes on yourself for once. Not because you know for sure it'll work. Not because you have a safety net. But because the person you need to become to do those things is the person who can actually have the life you're after. You don't become that person by staying where it's safe. You become that person by going somewhere it isn't. Every time you choose the hard thing over the easy thing, you're voting for the person you're becoming. Enough votes and you win. You change. And who you are is the only thing that actually decides what you end up with. And I want to say this clearly because people get it twisted. Choosing hard doesn't mean choosing stupid. It doesn't mean burning everything down and hurting yourself for no reason. It means choosing the specific hard thing that's pointed at where you want to go. The hard thing your future self is going to look back and thank you for. The thing that builds something. The workout that's hard because it's building your body. The early morning that's hard because it's building your business. The tough conversation that's hard because it's building something real with someone who matters. That kind of hard. Hard with a target. Hard with a direction. Hard that is pointed at something worth pointing at. That's the line between the person who's just suffering and the person who's building. Both of them are in pain, but one has something to show for it. One is getting somewhere. You can take an enormous amount of difficulty when you know it's carrying you somewhere real. The pain becomes useful when where you're going is worth it. So get clear on where you're going first. Make it something you actually want, not something you're supposed to want. Then point your heart at it, every single day. Now let's talk about time. Because time is the thing running underneath all of this, and most people lie to themselves about it. You think you have more than you do. You feel like there's always tomorrow, always next year, always some future version of you who's going to do the thing you're not doing today. But that version isn't coming. That version is being built right now, in the choices you're making or not making. You are writing who you'll be tomorrow with what you do today, not what you mean to do, not what you plan to do when things calm down, what you actually do, what you actually choose, how you actually spend the hours. That's the story. And the hard truth is the hours are moving whether you use them or not. Time doesn't wait until you feel ready. It doesn't slow down because you're lost or scared or tired. It goes. Every single day it goes. And every day it goes without you making any ground is a day you are never getting back. Not one, not a single hour. Once it's gone, it's gone. And you can use that hour on something that's carrying you toward the life you want. Or you can use it on something carrying you toward the life you settled for. Both spend an hour. One of them buys something. The other one doesn't. Here's the part that's going to sting. Most people have already burned years. Not days, not weeks, years. Years they had and didn't use. Waiting for something that never came. And if you sit with that right now, actually sit with it, you can feel it. The time you wasted. The chances you didn't take. The version of yourself you could already be right now if you had moved 3 years ago instead of telling yourself you move soon. That weight is real. I'm not bringing it up to knock you down. I'm bringing it up because that weight is actually something you can use. The pain of wasted time can either pin you in place or it can get you moving faster than you ever have before. That's your call. You can carry it as something to feel bad about, or you can carry it as something to run on. The first one keeps you still. The second one makes you go. And the sharpest version of that second one sounds like this. Not one more day, not one more morning, not one more hour on nothing. What's already gone I can't touch, but every hour starting right now belongs to me, and I am going to use it. I'm not saying run yourself into the ground. That's not the point. The point is that the window doesn't stay open forever. The version of you who can build this thing is here right now, today, with the time and the energy and the capacity you have at this moment. 10 years from now that looks different. The weight is heavier, the responsibilities are bigger, the excuses get better, so the time is now, not as a slogan. Actually now, this week, pick the thing, get in the work, go before you're ready because ready is not coming ahead of you. Ready is something you build by going. The clarity comes from moving, the confidence comes from doing, not from sitting and waiting until you feel solid enough to start. Stop waiting to be saved. Stop waiting for someone to show up and hand you the answer. Stop waiting for the economy or the market or the timing to line up and make it easy. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission to go after the thing you want. Nobody is coming. That's not said to scare you. That's said to cut you loose. Because as long as you're waiting for something outside of you to open the door, you're giving away the only thing you actually control. The truth is the only thing standing between you and the life you say you want is you. Not your background, not what happened to you years ago, not what's going on in the world right now. You, your choices, your willingness to do the hard thing when the easy thing is sitting right there. The life you want is not being held up by the economy, or the people who doubted you, or the chances you didn't get. It's being held up by the work you haven't done yet. And that's actually good news, because the work is something you control. The economy you can't touch. What other people think you can't touch. The breaks that didn't come your way you can't touch. But the work is right there, right now, today. You can start on it the second you finish listening to this. Nobody needs to sign off on it. Nobody needs to fund it. Nobody needs to let you in or hand you a spot or tell you it's your turn. You just have to decide and then move. Because the people who have the lives you want did not wait for everything to line up. They were not given easier roads. They did not have less to deal with, or less to fear, or more certainty about what was going to happen. Most of them started with less than you have right now. What they had was a decision they actually meant, not the kind you make and then revisit every few days. The kind you make and then close the door. The kind where the direction is set and you are not turning around. The kind where the question is no longer whether you're going to do it. The only question is how, and when that shift happens, when the if becomes a how, everything changes. Your head stops generating reasons to quit and starts generating ways to keep going. It stops running over what could go wrong and starts working on what to do next. The real decision, made for real, does that. Back to where we started. If it was easy, everyone would have it. Say it again. Everyone would have it. Hold the thing you want in your head right now. Hold how hard the road to it is. Now sit with something for a second. The fact that it's hard, the fact that it has beaten you up, cost you sleep, made you question yourself, made the people around you doubt you. None of that is evidence that you picked the wrong thing. It's evidence that the thing is real, that it matters, that it's worth something. The hard is not what's in your way. The hardness is the road. Every day you show up and do the work is another step down that road. It doesn't happen all at once. It doesn't happen in a rush of momentum and clarity and feeling like a winner. It happens slow. It happens in the dark. It happens on the days when nothing seems to be moving and you can't see any progress and you have no idea if any of this is going anywhere. It happens on those days more than any other, because those are the days everyone else stops. Those are the days that put distance between you and the people who almost made it. The ones who quit right before something broke open. The ones who stopped one step before the lock turned. You don't know which step that is. You never know which day is the one that tips it. Which phone call, which attempt, which morning you dragged yourself up instead of rolling over and going back down. You don't know. The only thing in your hands is whether you keep going, so you keep going every day. Without knowing when it opens, without a guarantee it will, with nothing but your own word that you're going to see this through. That's it, not talent, not luck, not perfect conditions or a perfect plan, just a real decision made once and then kept. One day at a time, one hard choice at a time, one morning at a time, for as long as it takes, because you didn't come this far to stop now, and you didn't build this thing in your head just to let it die there. You built it because something in you knows you're capable of more than you're living right now. And that thing in you is right. You are capable of more. But more is on the other side of hard, and hard is exactly where most people stop. Hard is exactly where you have to draw a different line than the one everyone else drew. Not because you have more talent, because you have more will. Because when the hard shows up and says stop, you say no, not today, not anymore. I know what's on the other side. I want it bad enough to earn it. And I'm going to earn it. Every single day. Until it's mine. The people who win are not the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who found out it was hard and kept going. The ones who got hit in month 2 and came back in month 3. The ones who failed in front of people and didn't let the embarrassment be the last word. The ones who got told no 11 times and knocked on the door for 12. The ones who went through the stretch where nothing was working and nobody was watching, and there was no reward and no recognition, and did the work anyway, because they had decided, because they were locked in, because they understood at a gut level that the difficulty wasn't the punishment. The difficulty was the work. The difficulty was the job. And if you want the result, you have to do the job, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's not exciting, even when you're worn out and uncertain and by yourself, you do the job. Today, tomorrow, until it's done. And if it's not done, you get back up and do it again. That's the whole game. No shortcut, no cheat, no version of this where you get the life you want without paying what the life costs. So stop looking for that version. Stop waiting for the one where it doesn't take anything from you. The version where it takes everything is the only one there is. And that version is yours if you want it enough to earn it. If it was easy, everyone would have it. But it's not easy. And that means not everyone will have it. Most people will fall short. Most people will stop. Most people will take one look at how hard it is and decide it's not worth it. And that's their call, but not you. Stop settling for a life you hate. That's it. That's the whole message. And if you needed a video to tell you that, some part of you already knows it's true. You wake up every single morning and you go through the same motions. You check your phone before your eyes are even open. You get dressed for a job that drains you. You sit in traffic thinking about nothing and everything at the same time. You go to a place that makes you feel like a ghost walking through your own life. And then you come home and you do it all over again the next day. And somewhere in the middle of that loop, you stopped asking yourself if this is what you actually want. You just kept doing it, because doing it is easier than stopping and asking the question. Settling asks nothing of you. Change asks everything of you. And that is exactly why most people choose to settle. Have you ever met someone who is truly happy with their life and asked them how they got there? Have you ever asked them, how did you end up doing something you actually love, living somewhere you actually want to be, surrounded by people who actually make you feel alive? And they told you, I don't know, it just happened one day. No, that never happens. Nobody wakes up one random morning inside a life they love by accident. There is always a moment, sometimes small, sometimes loud, where a person looked at their life and said, I am done accepting this, and then did something about it. For you to build a life you don't hate, you have to make choices a certain way. You have to say no to comfort a certain amount of times. You have to walk away from things that are safe but empty, and walk toward things that are uncertain but honest. Nobody drifts into a good life. People drift into bad ones. Good lives are built on purpose, one uncomfortable decision at a time. You have to actually picture the life you want, in detail, before you can ever expect to have it. What does your morning look like when you're not dreading it? What kind of work makes you lose track of time instead of counting down the minutes until you can leave? Who are the people around you? Are they lifting you, or are they just there because leaving would be awkward? Where do you live? What does your body feel like when you move through your day? Most people have never actually sat down and answered these questions. They complain about the life they have, but they've never even designed the one they want. How do you expect to arrive somewhere when you don't know where you're going? You can't. You end up wherever the current takes you, and the current does not care about your dreams. The current takes you to average. It takes you to comfortable. It takes you to the version of your life where you're 40 years old, wondering what happened to all that time. Think about all the versions of your life you've quietly buried without ever giving them a real chance. The business idea you talked yourself out of because it seemed too risky. The move you didn't make because it felt safer to stay near what you already knew. The relationship you stayed in past the point it stopped growing you, because starting over felt scarier than staying stuck. Every one of those buried versions of your life required the exact same thing to come alive. A decision made on an ordinary day to stop protecting comfort and start protecting your future instead. And every one of them died quietly, without ceremony, the moment you chose familiar over uncertain one more time. That's the part nobody warns you about. Your dream life doesn't usually die in one dramatic moment. It dies slowly, in 1,000 small moments where you pick the easier option, until one day you look up and realize the window you thought would always be open has been closing the entire time. There is a moment that happens to almost everyone, usually late at night, usually when it's quiet enough that you can't distract yourself anymore, where you feel it, a pressure in your chest, a voice that says, this isn't it, this isn't what I was supposed to build, this isn't who I was supposed to become. Most people hear that voice and they turn on the television. They open their phone and scroll until the feeling goes numb. They pour a drink. They tell themselves they'll deal with it tomorrow. And tomorrow they do the exact same thing, because avoiding the feeling is easier than confronting what it's telling you. But here's the truth nobody wants to hear. That feeling isn't going away. It's going to sit in your chest for the rest of your life, getting heavier every single year. You ignore it, until one day, you're too old and too tired to do anything about it at all. And that's when regret stops being a feeling and starts being a life sentence. You've got to want a different life the same way you want your next breath. Not the way you want a new pair of shoes. Not the way you want a nicer car. The way you want oxygen when you've been underwater too long. Because when you want something that badly, something changes in how you move through the world. You stop making excuses. You stop waiting for permission. You stop asking other people if it's a good idea. You just start moving. Because the alternative, staying exactly where you are, starts to feel more painful than the fear of change ever could. Let me tell you about a man who spent 9 years of his life doing a job he despised. He worked in an office with gray walls and fluorescent lights that buzzed just loud enough to notice and just quiet enough to ignore. Every single morning, he'd sit in his car in the parking lot for an extra 5 minutes before walking in, just trying to find the strength to open the door. He told himself it was temporary. He told himself once he got the promotion, once he paid off the debt, once the kids were a little older, once, he would finally do something about it. 9 years of once. 9 years of watching other people quit their jobs to build businesses, move across the world, start families, chase things that scared them, while he sat in that same chair, in that same gray office, telling himself he was being responsible. Then one Tuesday, nothing dramatic happened. No crisis, no health scare, no public embarrassment. He just sat in a meeting, listening to his manager talk about quarterly numbers, and he looked around the room at every single face in that meeting, and he realized something that broke him wide open. Every single person in that room had the same tired eyes he had. Every single one of them was waiting for permission to leave a life they hated, and none of them were going to get it, because permission was never coming. Nobody was going to walk up to him and say, "It's okay now. You can go build the life you actually want." He was going to have to give himself that permission, or he was going to die in that chair, metaphorically or literally. It didn't matter which, because either way, he would have spent his one life waiting. He went home that night, and he didn't sleep. He sat at his kitchen table with a blank piece of paper, and he wrote down every single thing he actually wanted, without worrying about how stupid or unrealistic it sounded. He wanted to build something with his own hands. He wanted to wake up without dread sitting on his chest. He wanted his kids to see him excited about a Monday instead of dragging himself through it. He wanted to stop performing gratitude for a life he privately hated. And when he finished writing, he looked at that list, and for the first time in 9 years, he felt something other than numbness. He felt terrified, and underneath the terror, buried deep, he felt something that had been missing for almost a decade. He felt alive. It took him 2 more years to fully make the change. He didn't quit that same week, because that's not how real change usually works, no matter what the highlight reels tell you. He started small. He worked on his own thing for 1 hour before work and 1 hour after, exhausted, resentful some days, doubting himself most days. He failed at his first idea. He failed at his second one too. People around him, people who claimed to love him, told him he was being irresponsible, told him to be realistic, told him that most people don't get to do what they love. That's just how life is. And for a while, he almost believed them, because it's easy to believe the people who love you when they're scared for you and dressed it up as concern. But he kept going anyway, not because he was certain it would work. He wasn't. Nobody who has ever built a life worth living was certain it would work. He kept going because the alternative, going back to that gray office and that buzzing light and that meeting full of tired eyes, had become unbearable. Somewhere in that process, staying the same became scarier than changing. And that shift, right there, that's the whole secret. Most people think they need more confidence before they can change their life. They don't. They need the pain of staying the same to finally outweigh the fear of becoming something new. And once that happens, once you actually reach that point, you will move mountains you didn't know you had the strength to move. There's another story worth telling, because it shows you the same lesson from a completely different angle. A woman spent most of her 20s building a life that looked perfect from the outside. She had a stable relationship, a decent apartment, a job that paid enough to cover the bills, and even a little extra for vacations twice a year. On paper, she had nothing to complain about, and she reminded herself of that constantly, because the guilt of wanting more felt almost shameful. People would look at her life and say, "You have it so good," and she'd nod and agree. Because how do you explain to someone that a life can look complete on paper and still feel hollow every single morning when you open your eyes? She used to lie awake some nights running through a quiet inventory of her own life. The relationship was comfortable, but she couldn't remember the last time it made her feel excited about the future. The job paid the bills, but she spent most of her days waiting for 5 o'clock, counting down years instead of living inside them. The apartment was nice, but it never quite felt like a home she had chosen, more like a place she had ended up. None of it was terrible. That was the trap. Terrible would have been easy to leave. Terrible gives you a clear reason to go. What she had was worse than terrible, because it was tolerable. And tolerable is exactly comfortable enough to keep a person stuck for decades. It took her almost 3 years to admit out loud, even to herself, that comfortable and fulfilled are not the same word. 3 years of small warning signs she talked herself out of. 3 years of telling herself she was being dramatic, ungrateful, unrealistic, that plenty of people would kill for the life she already had, and they might have. But that doesn't mean it was the life she was supposed to be living. Other people's gratitude for a life is not the same as your own fulfillment inside of it. You can be genuinely lucky and still be genuinely unfulfilled. Those two truths can sit in the same chest at the same time, and pretending they can't is exactly what kept her stuck for so long. The moment everything changed for her wasn't dramatic either. She was sitting at a friend's engagement party, watching someone else's life move forward, feeling happy for them and hollow for herself at the exact same time. And she finally let herself ask the question she'd been avoiding for 3 years. If nothing in my life changes from this exact moment forward, if this is genuinely as good as it gets, am I actually okay with that? And the honest answer, the one she'd been running from with vacations and distractions and a comfortable enough routine, was no. She was not okay with that. And once she let herself hear that answer clearly, without flinching away from it, she couldn't unhear it anymore. That's usually how it works. The moment doesn't feel like lightning striking. It feels like finally admitting something you already knew. She didn't blow up her entire life the next morning. She started with one honest conversation, the one she'd been avoiding, about what she actually wanted her future to look like, and whether the people and the path she was on could grow into that with her. Some of it could, some of it couldn't. She let go of what couldn't, slowly, painfully, with plenty of nights where she questioned whether she was making a mistake, whether tolerable would have been the smarter choice after all. But underneath the fear, she kept coming back to the same understanding. Tolerable was never going to become fulfilling just because she waited long enough inside it. She had to build fulfilling on purpose, brick by brick, and that meant walking away from comfortable first. I'm going to tell you something that people don't want to hear, because it's easier to blame everything else. If you are still living a life you hate, it is not because the world is unfair to you, although sometimes it is. It is not because you didn't get the same opportunities as someone else, although sometimes that's true too. The real reason, the reason underneath all the other reasons, is that you have not become uncomfortable enough yet. You are still comfortable enough in your unhappiness to keep choosing it every single day. If you were actually unbearably uncomfortable, you would already be moving. You would already be making calls, learning skills, saving money, having hard conversations, walking away from things that don't serve you. But you're not. Because deep down, this life you say you hate is still tolerable enough to keep living inside of. Think about it honestly for a second. If someone told you to lie down on hot coals, you would not lie there and complain about how uncomfortable it was while staying put. You would get up immediately, because the pain would be too much to bear for even one more second. But look at your actual life. Look at the job that drains you, the relationship that doesn't fill you, the routine that makes you feel like you're sleepwalking through your own existence. You've been lying on those coals for months, maybe years, and you're still there. That tells you something important. It tells you that whatever discomfort you're feeling is not yet loud enough to force you into action. And until it gets loud enough, or until you decide, right now, to listen to it before it has to get louder, nothing is going to change. You are allowed to talk a good talk. Everybody does. Everybody sits around saying, I really need to change my life, and one day I'm going to do something different, and I know I deserve better than this. Talk is free. Talk costs you nothing. But look at what you're actually doing with your days. Are you learning something new, or are you scrolling until your eyes hurt? Are you having the hard conversation with the person or the situation that's been draining you? Or are you avoiding it for another week? Are you putting 1 hour a day toward the life you say you want? Or are you putting 0 hours toward it and calling that a season of rest? You can talk about change all you want. Your actions are the only thing that's ever going to move you. And here is the part that stings the most. You are not uncomfortable in your current position. Not really. Not in the way you claim to be. If you were, you would not still be there. People who are genuinely desperate for a different life do not sit around waiting for motivation to strike. They act while they're scared, while they're unsure, while they don't have all the answers. Because staying still has become too painful to tolerate. If you are still waiting for the right moment, the right amount of confidence, the right sign from the universe, understand that you are not actually ready to leave the life you hate. You're comfortable enough inside your own complaint. And that is the most dangerous place a person can live, because complaint feels like progress, but it isn't. Complaint is just settling with extra steps. You've got every excuse ready, don't you? It's the economy, it's your upbringing, it's your age. Too young to be taken seriously, or too old to start over. It's your circumstances, the people who depend on you, the responsibilities that came before the dream did. Some of those things are real. Nobody is going to sit here and pretend life is fair, because it isn't. And some people genuinely start further behind the line than others. But real obstacles and permanent excuses are two different things. And most people use the first one to justify staying stuck in the second one forever. There are people with less time, less money, less support, and less obvious opportunity than you, who are still finding a way to build something different, because they decided the excuse wasn't going to be the final word. And there are people with every advantage in the world who are still stuck exactly where they started, because they let the excuse become permanent. The circumstance is not what decides your life. What you do with the circumstance is what decides it. Maybe you tell yourself you don't have the time. Look honestly at how you actually spend your evenings. Look at how many hours disappear into a screen that gives you nothing back, except a slightly numb feeling and a later bedtime. That's not a time problem. That's a priority problem, wearing a time problem's clothes. Maybe you tell yourself you don't have the money to make a change. Sometimes that's true in the short term. And building towards something different often means saving quietly for months before you can make a real move. But not having enough money yet is a reason to build a plan, not a reason to give up on the idea entirely. Maybe you tell yourself you're scared of what people will think if it doesn't work out. Understand this clearly. The people worried about what others will think of their failure are usually the same people who never attempted anything big enough to actually fail at. Nobody remembers your failed attempt as vividly as you imagine they will. They're too busy worrying about their own life to spend much time thinking about yours. When you start making real changes, people around you are not always going to celebrate it. Some of them will feel threatened because your growth reminds them of the growth they've been avoiding in their own life. They'll ask why you're being so intense about everything all of a sudden. They'll tell you to relax, to slow down, to enjoy life a little more, as if wanting something different makes you ungrateful for what you already have. You are allowed to appreciate your life and still refuse to settle for it. Those two things are not opposites. You can be thankful for how far you've come and still be unwilling to stop there. Don't let anyone confuse your ambition for ingratitude. They are not the same thing, no matter how many times someone tries to tell you they are. There is a kind of person who gets called obsessed, unbalanced, too intense, too serious, because they decided their old life was no longer acceptable, and they went all in on building a new one. Understand something important. Every person you admire, every person whose life makes you feel a small ache of longing when you compare it to your own, went through a period where people around them thought they had lost their mind a little bit. Nobody builds an extraordinary life by staying perfectly balanced and perfectly comfortable and perfectly understood by everyone around them the entire time. There is a season, sometimes short, sometimes long, where you have to be a little bit unreasonable, where you have to work when others rest, learn when others relax. Sacrifice a few nights out so that 10 years from now, you're not sitting somewhere wondering what could have been. That season is not forever, but it is necessary, and most people are not willing to go through it, which is exactly why most people stay exactly where they are. Everybody talks about balance like it's some sacred rule you're not allowed to question. Balance this, balance that. Don't work too hard, don't want too much. Don't be so intense about your own life. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Balance is a wonderful thing to have once you've already built the life you want. It is a terrible strategy for building it in the first place. There has never been a person who transformed their entire situation by staying perfectly moderate about everything, working just enough, wanting just enough, sacrificing just enough to keep everyone comfortable, including themselves. The people who actually change their lives go through a season, sometimes measured in months, sometimes in years, where they look unbalanced to everyone watching from the outside. They skip the party to keep working. They wake up earlier than everyone else they know. They say no to things that would feel good in the moment because they can see something bigger further down the road, and they refuse to trade it for a smaller, more immediate comfort. That season doesn't last forever, and it shouldn't. But it is not optional if you actually want to build something different from what you currently have. You are going to have to get comfortable with people not understanding you for a while. That's part of the deal, and nobody tells you that part up front. The people who are still living inside the version of life you're trying to leave are not always going to celebrate you leaving it. Sometimes it's jealousy, dressed up as concern. Sometimes it's genuine fear that if you can change, they might have to look at their own life and ask why they haven't. Either way, you cannot build a different life while needing everyone around you to fully understand and approve of the process while you're still in the middle of it. Understanding comes later, usually after the results are undeniable. Until then, you have to be willing to walk a path that looks a little strange from the outside, because from the inside, you know exactly why you're walking it. Being extraordinary requires you to first become disgusted with being ordinary, not in a way that makes you hate yourself, but in a way that makes you refuse to keep repeating the same unfulfilling pattern one more time. Are you disgusted yet? Are you tired of watching other people build the life you keep telling yourself you'll build one day? Are you tired of scrolling through other people's progress while yours stays frozen? Good, use that. Disgust is not a comfortable feeling, but it is one of the most useful ones you will ever have. Because disgust with where you are is the exact fuel that pushes people toward where they actually want to be. The people who never get disgusted with their situation are the same people who are still there 10 years later, telling the same story about how one day things will be different. Here's something that will change how you think about every single day you have left. Nothing you do is neutral. Nothing. Every hour you spend either moves you toward the life you want or away from it. There is no such thing as a wasted evening that doesn't count. When you spend 3 hours mindlessly scrolling instead of working on the skill that could change your income, that counts, and it counts against you. When you choose comfort over the uncomfortable phone call that could change your career, that counts against you too. But the opposite is also true. And this is the part that should give you hope instead of guilt. When you read instead of scroll, that counts for you. When you show up to the gym, even when you don't feel like it, that counts for you. When you have the hard conversation instead of avoiding it, that counts for you. Life works like a ledger, and most people are only tracking the big obvious moments, the graduations and the promotions and the milestones, while ignoring the thousands of small entries that actually build or destroy the life they end up living. Think about your ledger from just this past week. How many hours went toward the life you say you want? And how many hours went toward numbing yourself against the life you actually have? Be honest with the number, because the number doesn't lie even when you do. Most people are shocked, genuinely shocked, when they actually sit down and total it up. They thought they were trying. They thought they were working on it. But when the hours get counted honestly, the trying adds up to almost nothing. Buried under hours of distraction that felt harmless in the moment, but quietly built the exact same life they claimed to be unhappy with. This isn't about guilt. Guilt doesn't build anything. This is about information. Once you can see clearly where your hours are actually going, you can start redirecting them on purpose instead of by accident. And that redirection, more than any single big decision, is what actually rebuilds a life over time. You don't need one massive, dramatic moment to change your life. You need 1,000 small, boring, unglamorous decisions made consistently, day after day, when nobody is watching and nobody is clapping for you. That is the actual mechanism behind every life you admire from the outside. It was never one lucky break. It was a person choosing, again and again, in the quiet, unrecorded moments of an ordinary Tuesday, to do the thing that moved them forward instead of the thing that felt easier in that exact second. Nobody sees those Tuesdays. Nobody posts about the version of you that got up early to work on your future when you were exhausted and unmotivated, and nobody would have known if you skipped it. But that version of you, the one that shows up when it would be so easy not to, that's the version of you that actually builds the different life. Not the version that talks about it. The version that shows up for it, especially on the days it doesn't feel good to. If what you are doing right now is not moving you toward the life you want, understand clearly that it is moving you away from it. There is no pause button on your life. Every day either builds you or erodes you, whether you notice it happening or not. You can tell yourself you're just taking a break, just coasting for a while, just waiting for the right moment to start. But time does not stop for your excuses. It keeps moving at the exact same pace, whether you're using it or wasting it. A year from now is coming, whether you're ready or not. The only real question is who you're going to be when it arrives. Are you going to be the same person, with the same complaints, and the same unfulfilled list of things you meant to do? Or are you going to be someone who can look back at the last 12 months and see actual proof that you refuse to settle anymore? You've got to want a different life, the same way you want your next breath. Say that back to yourself right now, slowly, because it's the whole point of everything that's been said so far. Not the way you want a new pair of shoes, not the way you want a nicer car, the way you want oxygen after you've been underwater too long. When you want something with that kind of intensity, you stop negotiating with your own excuses. You stop asking other people for permission you were never actually going to need. You stop waiting for a feeling of readiness that was never going to arrive on its own. And you start moving. Even when you're scared, even when you don't have every answer, even when the people around you don't fully understand why you're suddenly so serious about a life you used to just complain about. Picture yourself exactly 1 year from today. Picture waking up on that morning and looking back over the past 12 months. In one version of that future, nothing has changed. You're still in the same job that drains you, still complaining to the same people about the same problems, still telling yourself that one day you'll do something about it. In the other version, you took the leap. You had the hard conversations. You built the skill. You left the situation that was quietly killing your spirit. You are not fully where you want to be yet, because these things take time. But you are undeniably somewhere different, somewhere better, somewhere that proves you actually did something instead of just talking about it. Both of those futures are available to you right now. The only difference between them is what you choose to do, starting today and tomorrow and the day after that, when nobody is watching and nobody would blame you for choosing the easy path one more time. Good days and bad days move at the exact same speed. Time does not slow down to let you enjoy a victory longer, and it does not slow down to let you suffer through a hard season longer either. It just moves, indifferent to whether you're using it well or wasting it completely. That should terrify you a little, and it should also free you completely, because it means the pain you're avoiding by not making a change is not actually protecting you from anything. You're not saving yourself from discomfort by staying where you are. You're just delaying it, storing it up, letting it compound into a much bigger regret that will eventually demand to be felt, whether you're ready for it or not. The hard part of life is not the discomfort of chasing something bigger. The hard part of life is running out of time before you ever tried. Think about the hardest possible version of regret. It's not failing after you tried. Failing after you tried is survivable. People recover from that. People grow from that. The hardest version of regret is standing at the very end of your life, out of time, out of energy, out of chances, and realizing you never even attempted the life you actually wanted. That you spent decades circling the same unhappy routine, telling yourself stories about why now wasn't the right time, why the risk was too big, why other people got to chase their dreams, but you had responsibilities, until one day there were no more days left to change your mind. That kind of regret does not fade. It does not get easier with age. It sits in a person's chest and grows heavier every single year, because unlike failure, you can never go back and try again. You only get one attempt at this life, and it is currently happening right now, while you're deciding whether this video is just another thing you watch and then forget by tomorrow afternoon. So ask yourself the real question, not the polished version you'd say out loud to someone else, but the honest one you only admit to yourself late at night. How bad do you actually want a different life? Do you want it enough to give up an hour of comfort each day for it? Do you want it enough to have the conversation you've been avoiding for months? Do you want it enough to be misunderstood by people who preferred the smaller, quieter, more convenient version of you? Or do you just want it the way most people want most things, which is to say, not really, not enough to actually change anything about how you're living? There is nothing wrong with an honest answer, even if the honest answer is uncomfortable. But you owe yourself the truth, because you cannot build a different life on top of a lie you keep telling yourself about how badly you want it. You are not entitled to a life you love just because you want one. Wanting is the beginning, not the guarantee. Somewhere between where you are right now and the life you keep picturing in your head, there is a version of you willing to do the unglamorous work that closes that distance. That version of you exists. The only question is whether you are willing to become them, starting today, or whether you are going to keep waiting for a feeling of readiness that is never going to magically show up on its own. Readiness is not something you wait for. It's something you manufacture through action, one uncomfortable step at a time, until eventually you look back and realize you became ready simply by refusing to stop moving. Here is your permission slip, if that's what you've been waiting for. You are allowed to want more than the life you currently have. You are allowed to outgrow people who preferred the smaller version of you. You are allowed to walk away from the job, the relationship, the routine, the city, the version of yourself that no longer fits who you're becoming. You do not need anyone's approval to start over. You do not need a perfect plan before you take the first step. You just need to stop pretending that staying comfortable is the same thing as being safe, because it isn't. The most dangerous thing you can do with your one life is spend it quietly settling for less than what you know. Somewhere deep down, you were capable of building. Think about the version of you that exists 5 years from now, if absolutely nothing changes, starting today. Same complaints, same routine, same late night ache in your chest, just older and more tired, and further away from the energy it would have taken to start over. That version of you is not a scare tactic. That version of you is the actual, mathematical result of doing nothing different, day after day, for 5 more years. You already know that person. You've probably already met older versions of them in your own life. People who talk about the dream they never chased, with a kind of tired distance in their voice, like it happened to someone else a long time ago. You do not want to become that person, and the only thing standing between you and a different 5 years from now is what you decide to do with today, and tomorrow, and the day after that. Nobody is coming to save you from the life you hate. There is no version of this story where someone shows up and hands you the courage, the plan, and the permission all at once. That work is yours. It was always going to be yours. The good news buried inside that hard truth is that it means the power was always yours too. You are not waiting on luck. You are not waiting on someone else's approval. You are waiting on yourself. And the moment you stop waiting and start moving, even imperfectly, even scared, even without all the answers, everything begins to shift. Not overnight, not without setbacks, but it begins. And beginning is the only part that was ever actually up to you. You are going to die one day. That's not meant to be dramatic. It's just true. And most people spend their entire lives avoiding that fact so completely that they forget to actually build something worth living before it arrives. You have a limited number of mornings. Nobody knows the exact number, and that uncertainty should be motivating you instead of paralyzing you. Every morning you spend numbing yourself against a life you don't want is a morning you don't get back, traded for nothing except the temporary relief of not having to face the discomfort of changing. That trade might feel small today. It will not feel small when you're standing at the end of your life, adding up all those mornings and realizing how many of them you gave away for free. So stop settling. Stop telling yourself the story about how this is just how life is, how everyone feels this way, how you'll deal with it later. Later has a way of turning into never for people who don't decide, right now, that today is different. You do not need to have your whole life figured out to take the first step away from the version you hate. You just need to take it.